What's the most important thing if you get released that you do once you get your paperwork? All that. If that's what the release conditions are, right, it's going to go to court. What happens if you don't go to court? There's a warrant out for your arrest. Yes, that is very, very important. So that piece of paper that you have in your hand is going to keep you safe. And coming through and doing the whole thing all over again. I hope it was a 2008 experience for you, but I'm sure you would want to go through it again. Okay? So make sure that you all keep your paperwork, write those dates on a calendar, put it on a post note, and make sure that you come back to court. Yes, sir. This is your court paperwork. It's the paperwork that's going to be submitted to you after the judge has had an opportunity to speak with you. And it's going to give you your release instructions, the things that you need to do before your next court date. This is initial appearance court. It's not a hearing to determine if you're innocent or guilty of your charges. It's to show if there's probable cause to either let you go home or to stay in custody is what it is and what the release conditions are. Some of you might have bond amount that need to be paid before you can go home. All right, everyone stand up, please. Stand up.
Please be seated.
Thanks, the bell. Push the bell. Yeah.
All right. Good morning. This is the 5 a.m. calendar for March the 11th. The court's orders for the taking of fingerprints and DNA samples made on the first calendar of the first of the month remain in full force and effect. All right, we're going to proceed as follows. I'm going to call one person at a time to the podium. We'll have one person sitting in the chair by the door, kind of on the on-deck circle. First, we're going to take Tyan Bell, followed by Rolando Placarte. Is Mr. Bell in the courtroom?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bell, if you could step up to the podium, please. Sir, please state your name.
Hi, I'm Troy Bell.
And your date of birth, sir.
4/30/1982.
All right, sir, you're here this morning on a new case charging aggravated assault on first responder, Class 4 felony, resisting arrest, a Class 6 felony, possession of drug paraphernalia, Class 6 felony, and shoplifting, a Class 1 misdemeanor. Based upon the information provided to the court has found probable cause as to these offenses. I've also found you to be indigent and appointed the public defender to represent you. In this case, you have a bond set in the amount of $5,000. It's a secured appearance bond. If you post the bond, you're not to have any contact with any arresting officers. You're not to possess any weapons. You're not to possess any drugs without a valid prescription. You're not to drive a motor vehicle without a valid driver's license. You're to continue to reside in an address you provide the court. You must also submit the DNA testing and fingerprinting at the arresting police department. Your next court date on this case will be a status conference on March the 17th at 8:30 and a preliminary hearing on March the 20th at 8:31 in the Superior Court at 175 West Madison. Do you have any questions, sir?
No, sir.
All right. The officer will give you some paperwork. Make sure you hold on to your paperwork because it has all your court dates and your release conditions on it, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir.
There you go.
Mr. Plancarte, followed by Mario Frale. Sir, step up to the podium, please. Sir, please state your name.
My name is Mario Fraile.
Okay. And your date of birth.
February 16, 1966.
All right, so you're here on 3 separate cases. First, number 14 on the calendar, which is looks like a justice court warrant on the charges of driving on a suspended license and driving without an ignition interlock device on your vehicle. You're not entitled to court-appointed counsel based upon the nature of the charges. I've affirmed the bond set by the justice court. Your bond on this case is a secured appearance bond of $750. If you post the bond on this case, you're not to have any contact with any arresting officers, you're not to have any drugs without a valid prescription, you're not to drive without a valid driver's license. You're to continue to provide the court with proof of your local address. Your next court date on this case is an arraignment on March the 14th at 8:30 in the Agua Fria Justice Court. Your next case is number 15 on the calendar. On this case, this is a Superior Court arrest warrant on the charge of aggravated DUI, a Class 4 felony. The public defender has been appointed to represent you. Your next court date on this case will be a status conference on March the 17th and a preliminary hearing on March the 20th. On this case, a bond has been set in the amount of $50. It's a placeholder bond just so you're getting credit for the time that you're doing. If you post the other bonds, this is a very low bond. The release conditions otherwise are exactly the same as far as the release conditions. Lastly, number 16 on the calendar is another Justice Court warrant from Agua Fria Justice Court for driving with a vehicle without an ignition interlock device. On this case, the bond is set in the amount of $750. There's no counsel being appointed at this time due to the nature of the charges. Your next court date on this case will be an arraignment hearing on March the 14th at 8:30 in the Agua Fria Justice Court. And the release conditions are identical as far as no driving without a valid driver's license and the other terms. Do you have any questions about these three cases, sir?
No.
Okay. The officer will give you some paperwork. Do we have Rolando Placarte in the courtroom?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
He's not.
And then after Mr. Placarte will be Samuel Bush. Sir, step up to the podium, please. Please state your name and date of birth, sir.
Rolando Placarte, born 2003, August 6th.
Thank you, sir. Sir, you're here on the charge of a probation violation for a Class 6 felony. I have found you indigent and ordered the public defender to represent you. There's been a secured appearance bond set in the amount of $1,000. Your next court date on this case will be a probation revocation arraignment hearing on March the 18th with a possible disposition hearing on the same date. That will be in the Superior Court at 201 West Jefferson. If you post the bond, you're not to have any contact with any of the arresting officers or witnesses. You're not to possess any drugs without a valid prescription or drive without a valid driver's license. You're to continue to provide the court with proof of your local address. And you're to contact the probation department within 72 hours of your release. Do you have any questions, sir?
No, I do not, Your Honor.
All right, the officer will give you some paperwork, so good luck. Mr. Bush, followed by Colin Corkill. Sir, please state your name.
Samuel Stephen Bush, 42701.
Thank you, sir. So you're here on a grand jury warrant on the charges of first-degree murder, it's a Class 1 felony, abandoning or concealing a dead body, a Class 5 felony, and tampering with physical evidence, a Class 6 felony. It's a grand jury warrant, and the grand jury judge has set a bond in the amount of $1,500,000. It's a cash-only bond. If you post the bond, which I think is probably unlikely, you'd have no contact with any victim or witness. You're not to have any contact with any arresting officers. You're not to possess any weapons or possess any drugs without a valid prescription. You're not to drive a motor vehicle without a valid driver's license. You continue to provide the court with the current address. I've appointed the public defender to represent you, but I think you already have an attorney representing you on the other case, which I think they'll probably take over this case. This may be a supervening indictment. Do you have any questions, sir?
Nope.
All right, sir, the officer will give you some paperwork. Mr. Corkill, followed by Abraham Alvarez.
Mr. Corkill is in State Southtown.
All right, so it'll be Corkill will be a house call.
Yeah.
All right. Then the next person in the chair by the door will be Anthony Nuttall. Sir, state your name, please.
Abraham Alvarez,
And what's your date of birth, sir?
2/17/96.
All right. Sir, you're here on a justice court warrant on the charge of driving on a suspended license, a Class 1 misdemeanor. At this point, I don't have enough information to determine indigency, so the court may appoint counsel at the next court date. Your next court date will be an arraignment hearing on March the 18th at 8:30 in the West McDowell Justice Court. A bond has been set in the amount of $500 as a secured appearance bond. If you post the bond, you're not to have any contact with any arresting officers. You're not to possess any drugs without a valid prescription. You're not to drive without a valid driver's license, and you do continue to provide the court with proof of your local address. Do you have any questions, sir?
No.
All right, the officer will give you some paperwork. Good luck, sir. Mr. Nuttall, followed by Prince Jones. Good morning, sir. Please state your name
Anthony Nuttall,
and your date of birth, sir.
December 3rd, 91.
All right, sir, you're here on two cases. Number 20 on the matter, it's a Superior Court probation violation warrant. It's a Class 4 felony. The court has found you to be indigent and has appointed the public defender to represent you. Excuse me. Your next court date on this case will be a probation revocation arraignment hearing on March the 18th at 8:30 with a possible disposition hearing on the same date. That'll be in the Superior Court at 201 West Jefferson. Secured appearance bond has been set in this matter in the amount of $200. If you post the bond, you're to have no contact with any arresting officers. You're not to possess any weapons. You're not to possess any drugs without a valid prescription or drive a motor vehicle without a valid driver's license. You're to continue to provide court with proof of your local address and submit to 10-point fingerprinting at the arresting police department. Lastly, since you're on probation, you're to contact the probation department within 72 hours of your release. On the number 21 on the calendar, it's another probation violation, it's a Class 4 felony. Once again, the public defender is appointed to represent you. Your court date is again a probation revocation hearing on March the 18th at 8:30 with a possible disposition hearing the same date. A secured appearance bond in the amount of $200 has been set in that case as well, and the release conditions are exactly the same as the other case. Do you have any questions about these two matters, sir? All right, the officer will give us the paperwork. Mr. Jones, followed by Dedrick Gully. Sir, please state your name
Princess Everett Jones,
and your date of birth, sir.
February 1st, 2004.
All right, sir, you're here on a grand jury warrant on the charges of aggravated assault, a Class 3 felony, and possessing, being a prohibited possessor, possessing a weapon, a Class 4 felony. I have appointed the public defender to represent you. I've set the bond as requested by the grand jury judge. Bond is set in the amount of $20,000. It's a cash-only bond. If you post the bond, you're not to have any contact with the alleged victim or witnesses. You have no physical contact with the alleged victim. You're not to initiate contact with any of the arresting officers, possess any weapons, possess any drugs without a valid prescription, and you're not to drive a motor vehicle without a valid driver's license. You must continue to provide the court with your local address. It looks like you may be on probation. If you are on probation, you must contact the probation department within 72 hours. Do you have any questions, sir?
No, sir.
All right, the officer will give you some paperwork, sir. Mr. Gully, followed by Richard Rubakava. Good morning, sir. Please state your name
Dedrick Gully,
and your date of birth.
1/21/73.
Sir McCollum.
All right, sir, you're here on a grand jury warrant on the charges of 2 counts of possessing narcotic drugs for sale, Class 2 felonies, possessing dangerous drugs, a Class 2 felony, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, a Class 3 felony, possessing a weapon in a drug offense, a Class 4 felony, being a prohibited possessor, a Class 4 felony, and lastly, endangerment, a Class 6 felony. I have appointed the public defender to represent you. In this case, there's been a bond set in the amount of $30,000. That's a secured appearance bond. It's not a cash-only bond. So it's a $30,000 secured appearance bond. Your next court date is an arraignment hearing on March the 19th at 8:30 in the Superior Court at 175 West Madison. If you post bond, you're not to have any contact with any of the arresting officers. You're not to possess any drugs without a valid prescription. You're not to drive a motor vehicle without a valid driver's license. And you continue to provide court with proof of your local address. Do you have any questions, sir?
Nah.
Okay. The officer will give you some paperwork. Good luck, sir. Mr. Rubalcaba, followed by Richard Ballesteros. Sir, please state your name
Richard Rubalcaba,
and your date of birth.
12/22/82.
All right, sir, you're here on two cases. In the number 9 matter, you're charged with failing to appear in the Superior Court, so it's a bench warrant, on the charges of possessing dangerous drugs, a Class 4 felony, possessing narcotic drugs, a Class 4 felony, and possessing drug paraphernalia, a Class 6 felony. The public defender has already been appointed to represent you. Your next court date will be a status conference on March the 17th at 8:30, with a possible preliminary hearing on March the 20th at 8:30 in the Superior Court in downtown Phoenix. Bond on this case is set as a secured appearance bond of $500. If you post the bond, you're not to have any contact with any arresting officers, possess any drugs without a valid prescription. You're not to drive a motor vehicle without a valid driver's license, and you're to continue to provide the court with proof of your local address. On number 10 on the calendar, you're here on a municipal court warrant at a surprise municipal court on the charge of disorderly conduct, a Class 1 misdemeanor. At this point, the court does not have enough information to determine indigency, and the court's not going to appoint counsel in this case. Your next court date on this case will be an arraignment hearing on March the 18th at 1:30 in the surprise municipal court. In this case, a secured appearance bond in the amount of $100 has been set. The release conditions are identical with the other case. Do you have any questions about these two cases, sir?
No, I don't. I'm just wondering if I'm gonna get OR of 2 days so I can go set up things for work, or if I'm gonna stay in.
You're going to stay in because you were released to pretrial services once before on the 24th Superior Court matter, and you didn't appear. That's why the court set a $500 bond on that case and a $100 bond on the other case. So you have a total of $600 in secured appearance bonds on these two cases.
Is that all cash, or just like
Secured appearance bonds, so you can go through a bonding company. All right, the officer will give you some paperwork, sir. Mr. Ballesteros, followed by Luis Gonzalez. Sir, please state your name.
Richard Anthony Ballesteros.
And your date of birth, sir.
1/14/73.
All right. Sir, you're here charged with 1 count of kidnapping, a Class 4 felony.
Kidnapping.
Kidnapping, it's unusual, but the way that they charged you is you took a person from one place to another. They've alleged you took them from an Uber, took them out. I'm just telling you what the charge is, sir.
Okay.
I'm not here to decide whether or not you're guilty or innocent. I'm just here to set release conditions and determine whether or not there's probable cause.
Okay.
That's what you've been charged with, and the court has at this point found probable cause. I have appointed the public defender to represent you. On this case, there's been a secured appearance bond set in the amount of $2,500. If you post the bond, you have no contact at all with any of the alleged victims. You have no contact with any witness or complainant or any of the arresting officers. You're not to possess any drugs without a valid prescription or drive without a valid driver's license. You must continue to provide court with proof of your local address and submit to DNA testing. Your next court date on this case will be a status conference on March the 17th at 8:30, with a possible preliminary hearing on March the 20th at 8:30. Do you have any questions, sir?
No, I didn't kidnap nobody. I just told him to get out of the oop, to get out of the lift, because he was stealing my money.
Sir, I'm just telling you, you can talk to your attorney about the exact nature of the charges. The officer will give you some paperwork.
Okay.
Good luck, sir. All right, next we're going to call Mr. Luis Gonzalez, followed by Donald Worrell. Worrell? Sir, step up to the podium, please.
Luis Gonzalez for 6/1990.
All right. All right, sir, you're here on a warrant out of Superior Court on the charge of possessing narcotic drugs of Class 4 felony. The public defender has been appointed to represent you. Your next court date will be a status conference on March the 17th at 8:30 in the Superior Court in downtown Phoenix, with a possible preliminary hearing on March the 20th at 8:30, also in the Superior Court in downtown Phoenix. I've affirmed the bond set at $500. It's a secured appearance bond. If you post the bond, you're to have no contact with the arresting officers. You're not to possess any drugs without a valid prescription or drive without a valid driver's license. You must continue to provide court with proof of your local address. Do you have any questions, sir?
Was that Miami going to jail today, or?
Not unless you post the bond, sir. You were released once before and you didn't show up, so you've got a $500 secured appearance bond. The officer will give you the paperwork with all of your information on it.
All right, thank you.
All right, Donald Worrell, followed by Pedro Payan Portillo.
Donald Lee Royal, 8/15/1959.
Thank you, sir. So you're here on a new case charging you with possession of dangerous drugs, Class 4 felony, possessing drug paraphernalia, Class 6 felony, and criminal trespass, Class 3 misdemeanor. The court has found probable cause as to these charges. I have found you to be indigent and appointed the public defender to represent you. On this case, you're going to be released to pretrial services. That means you need to keep in contact with them, but you'll be released without posting any bond. You must keep in contact with them and follow all of their directions. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
You'll be given an envelope with the information about how to contact them. The other release conditions are you're not to have any contact with any of the arresting officers. You're not to initiate contact with any of the arresting officers. You're not to possess any drugs without a valid prescription or drive without a valid driver's license. You must continue to provide the court with proof of your local address. Your next court date on this case will be a status conference on March the 26th at 8:30, with a preliminary hearing on March the 28th at 8:30. Sir, the officer is going to give you an envelope with the pretrial services as well as the court and times and everything else. Make sure you hold on to that paperwork. Make sure you contact pretrial services.
Yes, sir.
All right, you can step right over there, sir. Pedro Pan Portillo, followed by Jason Pezek.
Hello, my name is Pedro Pan Portillo. My birthday is January 14th, 1997.
All right, so you're here on a probation violation for a Class 1 misdemeanor. I have appointed the public defender to represent you. On this case, you're going to be released on your own recognizance. The release conditions are you're not to initiate contact with any arresting officers, you're not to possess any drugs without a valid prescription, you're not to drive without a valid driver's license. You're to continue to provide the court with proof of your local address, and you're also to contact the your probation officer within 72 hours of your release. Your next court date on this case will be a probation revocation arraignment on March the 18th at 8:30, with a possible disposition hearing on the same date. That'll be in the Superior Court at 201 West Jefferson, downtown Phoenix. Do you have any questions, sir?
Will I be released today, or?
On this case, you'll be released today, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, step over here and the officer will give you some paperwork. Jason, followed by Albert Yazzie.
back, please.
Take the,
There you go. Leave this outside. Leave the ball outside right here. And just go to the podium and give your full name and your date of birth, please.
So your name and date of birth, please?
Yes, Jason Robert Pasick, October 4th, 1980.
So you're charged with possessing dangerous drugs for sale, possessing narcotic drugs for sale, both Class 2 felonies, possessing dangerous drugs and narcotic drugs, simple possession, Class 4 felonies, and criminal trespass, Class 3 misdemeanor. The court has found probable cause as to these charges. The court has found you indigent and is appointing the Office of Public Defense Services to appoint an attorney to represent you. On this case, you're going to be released to pretrial services, which means you'll need to contact them and follow all of their directions. You will not have to post a bond. I'm going to go over some of your release conditions. It'll all be in writing. You're not to return to the scene of alleged trespassing. You're not to initiate contact with any of the arresting officers. You're not to possess any drugs without a valid prescription or drive a motor vehicle without a valid driver's license. You should continue to provide proof of your local address. Very important you contact pretrial services and follow all of the directions, make all of your court dates. Your next court date will be a status conference on March the 26th at 8:30 in the Superior Court at 175 West Madison, and a possible preliminary hearing on March the 28th. The date and the address will be on the paperwork the court the officer will hand you, as well as an envelope which tells you how to contact pretrial services. Do you have any questions, sir?
No, I do not.
All right, step right over there, sir.
yes.
All right, Albert Yazzie, followed by Zaire Keaton.
Right here, sir. Take your hoodie down. Your full name and date of birth.
Hello, my name is Albert Alzi Jr., June 18, 1980, my birthday.
All right, sir. You're charged with possessing burglary tools, a Class 6 felony, criminal damage, a Class 2 misdemeanor, resisting arrest with passive resistance, a Class 1 misdemeanor, and misdemeanor theft. The court has found probable cause of these charges. I have appointed the public defender to represent you. You are going to be released to pretrial services, which means you won't have to post a bond. You'll need to follow their directions. You'll be told how to contact them through an envelope the officer will give you. So you need to make sure you contact them immediately upon your release from jail. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
And I'm going to go over some of the release conditions with you. You'd have no contact with any complainant or witness. You're not to initiate contact with any arresting officers. You're not to possess any drugs without a valid prescription or drive without a valid driver's license. You're to continue to provide the court with proof of your local address, and you must submit to fingerprinting at the arresting police department. Your next court date on this case will be a status conference on March the 26th at 8:30, with a preliminary hearing on March the 28th at 8:30. Those court dates and the address and everything else will be on the paper that the officer will hand you. Make sure you hold on to that paperwork because it has all your information on it, as well as the envelope of how to contact pretrial services. Do you have any questions, sir?
No, Your Honor.
All right, step right over there, sir. Mr. Keaton, followed by Michael Squires.
Zaire Keaton, June 9, 2004.
All right, sir. You're charged with criminal damage of Class 6 felony and disorderly conduct of Class 1 misdemeanor. I have found you to be indigent and appointed the public defender to represent you. On this case, you are going to be released to pretrial services, which means you'll have to contact them and follow all of their directions. You'll be given contact information in an envelope the officer will hand you. I'm going to go over some of the release conditions. You'd have absolutely no contact with the alleged victim. You're not to have any physical contact with the alleged victim. You're not to initiate contact with any witness. You're not to initiate contact with the arresting officers. You're not to possess any drugs without a valid prescription or drive a motor vehicle without a valid driver's license. You're to continue to provide the court with proof of your local address and submit to fingerprinting at the arresting police agency. when I say no contact with the alleged victim, at this point I mean no contact at all. So even if the alleged victim contacts you, you're not to respond to any contact. That could be a violation of your release order. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Your next court date, if I didn't already mention, is a status conference on March the 26th in the Superior Court at 175 West Madison, with a preliminary hearing on March the 28th at 8:30. If you have no questions, the officer will hand you the paperwork, sir. Good luck. All right, next, Mr. Squires, followed by Jimmy Nunez. Sir, your name?
Michael Ryan Squires, August 30th, 1998.
Thank you, sir. Sir, you're here charged with possessing narcotic drugs and possessing dangerous drugs, both Class 4 felonies, and possessing drug paraphernalia, Class 6 felony. The court has found probable cause of these offenses. The court has appointed the public defender to represent you. The court is going to release you to pretrial services. You need to keep in contact with them and follow all their directions. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Some of the other release conditions are you're not to initiate contact with any of the arresting officers. You're not to possess or use any drugs without a valid prescription. You're not to drive a motor vehicle without a valid driver's license. You must continue to provide the court with proof of your local address and submit to fingerprinting at the arresting police department. Your next court date on this case will be a status conference on March the 26th at 8:30 in the Superior Court in downtown Phoenix at 175 West Madison, with a possible preliminary hearing following on March the 28th, also at 8:30. Do you have any questions about your release, sir?
No, sir.
All right, the officer will hand you the paperwork. All right, next will be Mr. Nunez, followed by Andrew Schubert. Sir, state your name.
Jimmy Nunez, 0828-1990.
All right, sir, you've been charged with one count of possessing dangerous drugs, one count of possessing narcotic drugs, both Class 4 felonies, and possessing drug paraphernalia, Class 6 felony. Also, criminal trespass, a Class 3 misdemeanor. Based upon the information provided by the court's found probable cause only on the count of criminal trespass, not on the other drug charges. Just because the court didn't find probable cause doesn't mean those charges are going away.
Yes, sir.
At this point, I have found you indigent, appointing the legal advocate to represent you. You're going to be released on your own recognizance. Some of the release conditions are you're not to return to the scene of the alleged offense, where the criminal trespass. You're not to initiate contact with the arresting officers, possess any drugs without a valid prescription, or drive without a valid driver's license. You're to continue to provide the court with proof of your local address. Your next court date will be a status conference on March the 26th at 8:30 in the Superior Court at 175 West Madison, with a possible preliminary hearing following on March the 28th at the same time. Do you have any questions about this case, sir?
No, Your Honor.
All right, the officer will hand you some paperwork, sir.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Schubert. Sir, step up to the podium, please. And please state your name.
Andrew Oaten Schubert,
And your date of birth, sir?
4/11/73.
All right, sir, you're charged with one count of unlawful use of means of transportation, being a passenger in a stolen vehicle. It's a Class 6 felony. The court has found probable cause as to this offense. I have found you to be indigent and appointed the public defender to represent you. On this case, you're going to be released on your own recognizance. You just need to make sure you make your court date. You understand that?
Good.
All right, I'm going to give you some of the release conditions, and I'll tell you your court date. Some of the release conditions are you're not to initiate contact with any alleged victims or witnesses. You're not to initiate contact with any arresting officers. You're not to possess any drugs without a valid prescription. You're not to drive without a valid driver's license. You're to continue to provide court with proof of your local address. Your next court date will be a status conference on March the 26th at 8:30 in the Superior Court at 175 West Madison in downtown Phoenix, with a possible preliminary hearing following on March the 28th, also at 8:30. Do you have any questions, sir?
No, so that was for the, you said you were releasing me on my trespass, or?
You're charged with unlawful use of means of transportation.
Yeah, no, I know, but there was also the trespass.
That could be a city court matter that I don't have. I don't have.
Okay, I'm sorry. I got him confused.
Okay, that's a different court, sir.
Yeah.
I only have jurisdiction on this case.
Okay.
So on this case, you're released with your next court date on March 26th.
Okay.
The officer will hand you some paperwork. It's important that you keep the paperwork because it has all of the court dates on it. All right?
Great.
Step right over there, sir.
Thank you.
All right, Ronald Black. Sir, what's your name?
Jesus Machado.
Okay, I called for Ronald Black. Is he here, or is he?
Ronald Black?
He's on the calendar, he's number 18. Because for Mr. Machado, we need language learning. What? You're on top of stuff. Okay, it's coming now. We'll get him done quickly. Sir, state your name, please.
Ron Black,
Date of birth, sir?
9/19/1966.
All right, sir, you're charged with public sexual indecency, a Class 5 felony. I have found you to be indigent and appointed the public defender to represent you. I've set release conditions as follows. You have a secured appearance bond in the amount of $15,000. If you post the bond, then you'll be subject to pretrial services supervision with electronic monitoring installed before your release. If you post the bond, you're not to initiate any contact with the alleged victim. You're not to have any physical contact with the alleged victim. You have no contact with any complainant or witness. You're not to initiate contact with the arresting officers. You're not to possess any drugs without a valid prescription or drive a motor vehicle without a valid driver's license. You must continue to provide the court with proof of your local address. Your next court date on this case will be a status conference on March 17th at 8:30 in the Superior Court at 175 West Madison, with a preliminary hearing possibly to follow on March the 20th, also at 8:30. Do you have any questions, sir?
No.
All right. The officer will hand you his paperwork, sir. All right. I'm sorry to do that one. Do you have language learning? Mr. Machado? And do we have an interpreter on the line?
In Spanish?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Can you ask the gentleman to please state his name and date of birth?
¿Puedes decir su nombre y su fecha de nacimiento?
Jesus Machado, 20/07/88.
Jesus Machado, July 20th, 2007.
Tell me your date of birth again.
¿Cuál es su fecha de nacimiento de nuevo?
20/07/88.
July 20th, 1988.
All right, thank you. Sir, you're here on two cases.
Estás aquí por dos casos.
The first case charges you with unlawful flight from a law enforcement vehicle, a Class 5 felony.
El primer caso es usted trata de desarmar un vehículo y eso es una cosa que enfrente la ley.
You're also charged with the resisting arrest, a Class 6 felony.
También usted está cargado para resistir al arrestamiento.
Also 4 counts of misdemeanor driving under the influence of intoxicating liquor.
Usted está aquí también por conducir bajo influencia intoxicado.
I have found you to be indigent and have appointed the public defender to represent you in this case.
Yo creo que usted sea muy diligente y encuentra un defensor público para representarte en el caso.
I have found probable cause as to these charges.
Y yo encuentro también causas probables en nuestros cargos.
In this case, there's been a bond set, a secured appearance bond of $1,800.
En este caso, usted ha sido salariado de unas cosas de seguridad por más de $1,800.
If you post the bond, you'd have no contact with any of the arresting officers.
Si usted está en contacto con otros oficiales,
you're not to possess any drugs without a valid prescription.
Usted no tiene ninguna posesión de droga con una prescripción válida.
You're not to drive a motor vehicle without a valid driver's license.
Usted no está tratando de manejar un vehículo sin una licencia a conducir válida.
And you to continue to provide the court with proof of your local address.
Y usted tiene que continuar a darle a la corte una dirección de su casa.
Your next court date will be a status conference on March the 17th at 8:30.
Y tu siguiente cita de corte sería el 17 de marzo a las 8:30.
Followed by a possible preliminary hearing on March the 20th, also at 8:30.
Y el próximo audiencia sería el 20 de marzo a las 8:30.
All right, moving on to the next case.
Vamos a ir al siguiente caso.
You hear on a warrant out of Surprise Municipal Court.
Usted está en garantía para la corte municipal.
On the charges of refusing to give your true name.
Y en el cargo de usted no quería dar su nombre, su verdadero nombre.
And failure to provide a driver's license. Both are misdemeanors.
Y usted no quería dar su licencia de conducir.
The secured appearance bond in that case is $500.
Y en ese caso sería de $500.
Based upon the nature of the offenses, you're not entitled to an attorney on that case.
Basado en la naturaleza de esos cargos, usted no es capaz de tener un abogado con esos casos.
The other release conditions are exactly the same as the case I just went over with you a minute ago.
Okay, para las cláusulas de condiciones son los mismos, así que yo te voy a dar en un minuto.
Your next court date on that case is an arraignment hearing on March the 18th in the Surprise Municipal Court.
Y la próxima fecha para una de esa audiencia sería el 18 de marzo y sería en la Corte Municipal.
Do you have any questions, sir?
¿Usted tiene pregunta?
No.
The officer will give you the paperwork with your court dates on it.
Usted tiene los documentos de las fechas también.
All right, thank you very much for interpreting for us.
Oh, thank you then.
All right, we have two house calls. First, number 29, Noel Smith. The court's inclination at this point is to set a secured appearance bond in the amount of $2,500. On Mr. Porkhill, the court's inclination is to set a bond in the amount of $7,500, followed with also pretrial services, supervision, and electronic monitoring to be installed before release. If after seeing Ms. Smith or Mr. Corkill, the court determines that the court's not going to follow its inclination, the court will come back on the record and state what the court did instead. At this point, that will conclude the 5 a.m. calendar for March the 11th. The court will be in recess until the 8 a.m. calendar. Yeah, let me just do this return real fast. But go ahead, I'm sorry. Yeah, we're off the record, I'm sorry.